Hello, this is Dana with the 57th segment of the Master the Bible Today series, a snapshot of the book of Daniel. Authored by Daniel and written to the other captives in Babylon and God's people everywhere, to give an historical account of the faithful Jews who lived in captivity and to show how God is in control of heaven and earth, directing the forces of nature, the destiny of nations, and in the care of his people. Daniel had been taken captive and deported to Babylon by Nebuchadnezzar in 605 BC. There he served in the government for over 60 years during the reigns of Nebuchadnezzar, Belshazzar, Darius, and Cyrus. In our world today, international and personal tragedies make our world seem a fearful place, overflowing with evil and seemingly out of control. And the litany of bombings, shootings, coups, murders, and natural disasters could cause us to think that God is absent or impotent. Where is God, we could cry, engulfed by sorrow and despair. Daniel could have despaired. As I said, Daniel and thousands of his countrymen had been deported to a foreign land after Judah was conquered by King Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel found himself facing an egocentric despot, which is someone who thinks only of themselves, feels invulnerable while exercising their power in a cruel and oppressive way. He was surrounded by idolaters who worshiped someone or something other than God as though it were God. Instead of giving in or giving up, this courageous young man held fast to his faith in God. Daniel knew that despite the circumstances, God was sovereign, the supreme ruler, and was working out his plan for nations and individuals. The book of Daniel centers around this profound truth, the sovereignty of God. After a brief account of Nebuchadnezzar's siege and the defeat of Jerusalem, the scene quickly shifts to Daniel and his three friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, who were renamed as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego by the king's chief of staff. Nebuchadnezzar ordered his chief of staff to bring some young men from Judah's royal family to serve in his royal palace to be trained for 3 years in the language and literature of Babylon. Along with Daniel, these men held prominent positions within the Babylonian government. These men are inspiring examples for us of living a faithful life in a sinful world. They determined to serve God regardless of the consequences. They did not give in to pressures from an ungodly society because they had a clear purpose in life. It is wise to make trusting and obeying God alone our true purpose in life. This will give us direction and peace in spite of the negative circumstances or consequences around us. One of the reasons that Daniel held such a prominent position in the Babylonian government was because of his ability to interpret the king's dreams that told of God's unfolding plans, chapters 2 and 4. Sandwiched between the dreams is the fascinating account of Daniel's 3 friends and the furnace in chapter 3. Because they refused to bow down to the image of gold and other idols made by Nebuchadnezzar, they were condemned to a fiery death by being thrown into a large furnace. But God intervened and spared their lives in a miraculous way. They were not only rescued from the furnace, but there was not even a smell of smoke on them. When we trust and obey God and we face trials, we can expect God to remain present with us through our trials. Belshazzar ruled Babylon after Nebuchadnezzar. And chapter 5 tells of his encounter with God's message, miraculously written by a hand on a wall where he was having a party. Daniel, who was summoned to interpret the message, predicted Babylon's fall to the Medes and the Persians, due in part to Belshazzar's disrespect of sacred items taken from the temple of God in Jerusalem and being wrongly used during the party. That prediction came true that very night, and Darius the Mede conquered the Babylonian kingdom. Daniel became one of Darius's most trusted advisors. Daniel's privileged position, though, angered other administrators who plotted his death by convincing the king to outlaw prayer. In spite of that law, Daniel continued to pray to his sovereign Lord. As a result, he was condemned to die in a den of hungry lions. Again, God intervened and saved him, shutting the mouths of the lions. Chapter 6. The book concludes with a series of visions that Daniel had during the reigns of Belshazzar, chapters 7 and 8, Darius, chapter 9, and Cyrus, chapters 10 through 12. Those dreams dramatically outline God's future plans, beginning with Babylon and continuing to the end of the age. These visions gave the Jewish captives added confidence that God is in control of history. They were to wait patiently and in faith and not to worship the gods of Babylon or accept their way of life. God still rules over human activities. Evil will be overcome, so we should wait patiently and not give in to the temptations and pressures of the sinful way of life around us. Although many nations compete eagerly for world control now, one day Christ's kingdom will replace and surpass all the kingdoms of this world. Read the book of Revelation. God is all-knowing and he oversees world events. God overrules and removes rebellious leaders who defy him. God will overcome evil. No one is exempt, but he will deliver the faithful who follow him. Our faith is sure because our faith is secure in Christ. God is sovereign. He was in control in Babylon, and he has been moving in history, controlling the destinies of people ever since. And he is here now. Despite news reports or personal stress, we can be confident that God is still in control. Daniel served for over 60 years in a foreign land that was hostile to God, yet he did not compromise his faith in God. He was truthful, persistent in prayer, and disinterested in power for personal glory. God was faithful in Daniel's life. He delivered him from prison, from a den of lions, and from the enemies who hated him. God cares for his people and deals patiently with them. Because he has been faithful to us, we should remain faithful to him. In order to fulfill our life's purpose, we need godly staying power. Do not let your Christian distinctiveness or values become blurred. Be relentless in your prayers. Stay firm in your integrity and be content to serve God wherever he puts you. As you read Daniel, watch God work and find your security in his sovereignty. Thank you.